Hi there, my name is Mike, and if you know me at all, you know Excel is one of my favorite Microsoft programs to teach. So in this video, I'm excited to share with you my top 25 tips and tricks that will help you master Excel. One of the best feelings in the world as a teacher is having a former student approach me and say, "Hey Mike, that thing you taught us in Excel? Yeah, I use that all the time in my career job." So these Excel tips and tricks are based on my students' feedback of which Excel tips and tricks are the most important. In this video, I'm going to show you only the top Excel tips and tricks according to my students to help you in your career, prepare for your Excel tests, or just learn something new with some fun learning activities. So make sure to watch this video the whole way through so you don't miss a thing. The first skill we will look at is how to merge cells. A merged cell contains two or more cells into a single cell, which is a great option for titles and subtitles in Excel, as I can expand the text over a few columns by highlighting the range I want to merge, and now my text is merged across columns A to G. An MOS skill that you will need to know is how to merge cells, but keep your text in the new merge range on the left. We can do this by using the merge across option in the merge and center drop arrow. Another cool trick with merge and center is that you can merge cells down going over rows as well. Pair this with this rotate text button and you can create this effect in your worksheet. You may also have to auto-fit your columns and rows if you have too much space or not enough space for your values and text in a cell. In this example, I have too much space in my column that I don't need. To fix that, all I have to do is highlight the section I want to auto-fit, go to our Format drop arrow in the Home tab, and select Auto-Fit Column Width. Now we have just enough room for our text in the selected part of our column. On the other hand, if you squeeze your numbers, they will begin cursing at you. In this example, we will need to use AutoFit to expand our column. Just double-click to the right of the desired column and the column will expand and allow our numbers to show, which means they won't have to curse at you anymore. A skill that is so important in Excel but is largely ignored is the skill of how to design your worksheet to make it stand out. I'm going to show you how to easily format your cells and tabs. Excel already has set cell styles, so for this title, I can make it stand out by choosing the title style. Or in these cells that have a calculation in them, I can use the preset calculation style, which looks nice. In contrast, if I typed in a number, I could let others know that by using the input style. You can also quickly format your worksheet tabs by right-clicking on them. Then hover your mouse over the tab color button and choose a color. See how nice they look? To move your text down in a cell, it's not as easy as moving your text down in Microsoft Word, but you can do it by pressing the Alt and Enter keys at the point in a cell where you want to move your text to the next line. The Quick Analysis tool is a feature that analyzes data with a few clicks of your mouse. You select a data range and the Quick Analysis button appears, allowing you to quickly create charts, add tiny miniature graphs called sparklines, work with totals, format the data with conditional formatting, and create pivot tables. A cell reference identifies a cell's location in the worksheet based on its column, letter, and row number. Using a cell reference rather than the data displayed in a cell gives you more flexibility in your worksheet. If the data in a cell changes, any formulas that reference the cell change as well. This last example was a relative cell reference because it is one that changes relative to the location of where it is copied or moved. However, sometimes you don't want a cell reference to change when you copy or move it. In this case, you can use an absolute cell reference, which refers to a specific cell or range of cells regardless of where the formula is located in the worksheet. For example, let's say I'm calculating my students' final marks, and I have to multiply their marks based on the weight of each exam. For the first student, this formula works, but watch what happens when I try to copy the formula down for the other students. Fail. What happened was, Excel saw a pattern and applied that pattern to my reference cells and moved them down, which means their marks were sometimes multiplied by 0 or no value at all. To fix this, I want to highlight each cell reference in my formula that represents the weight of each exam and then press F4. This puts a $sign in front of the row and the column reference of each weighted value. This tells Excel to hold on to that cell and never let it go, which is an absolute cell reference. Yes, this cell reference is a stage 5 clear, and that's a good thing. Conditional formatting is a powerful Excel feature that enables you to specify how cells that meet a condition should be displayed. Thus, conditional formatting means that Excel applies formatting automatically based on established criteria. In our example, I want to ask who are the highest scoring students and who are the lowest or at-risk students. With the final marks sections highlighted, I could choose to look at greater or less than a B average or 70%. I could look at my top 10 students or my bottom 10 students. I could use data bars to quickly show how close or far students were from a perfect mark. I could also use color scales if I wanted to view the final marks as a sort of heat map. I could also use icon sets to identify students who are doing well, average, or below average. I can also take this a step further and create my own rules by clicking on Manage Rules. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a more detailed explanation of conditional formatting by typing CF in the comments section. Just like a window, Excel may contain a divided part of the screen that we want to view called a pane. In this example, if I want to view the top part of this window while scrolling down to the page, I can freeze the top while still moving down the screen. To do this, all you have to do is highlight the area you want to freeze, then click the View tab, and then click Freeze Panes, and now the top part of the screen is frozen while we scroll down the worksheet. A little trick that I use when I forget to input certain information is to just move the values by manually selecting them and moving them where I need them to be. Let's say in this example I forget to input the marks for test 4. I can't just insert a column because that would disrupt the information in the top section. Instead, I can just select the information I need to move to the right and drag it over to where it needs to be. Simple, right? Well, you can take this a step further when copying a formula to save time. Let's say I wanted to calculate the median for exam 1. First, I would type in our function, highlight the range, then press enter. Instead of repeating this step, I can copy this over to the other exams, then move the selected range. For exam 2, I will move this information to the exam 2 range, and so on. This saves time instead of having to retype or highlight the next column over and over again. An Excel 3D reference lets you refer to the same cell or a range of cells in several worksheets. In other words, it references not only a range of cells but also a range of worksheet names. The key point is that all of the reference sheets should have the same pattern and the same data type. Think of it this way. We wouldn't think of one page as a three-dimensional object, but a bunch of pages or worksheets stacked on top of each other would be three-dimensional. So in this example, we can create a 3D reference to consolidate all of the information in the same cell from different worksheets to get a grand total. To create a 3D reference in a formula, you will type in equal in the formula bar, then sum, and open bracket in the cell F6 in our summary worksheet. Then, before we get our reference, I will group the multiple worksheets that I want to reference by clicking on the first worksheet, holding the Shift key on my keyboard, then I'll click on the last worksheet in the group to group all of the worksheets together. Now we have to choose which cell we will reference, and in our case it'll be E6 in the quarter 1 worksheet, but you could choose this cell from any one of the worksheets that we grouped. At this point, your formula should look like this. And then when we close the bracket and press enter to summarize our 3D reference. Just like references, the nice thing about using a 3D reference is that if we change any number, the totals will reflect that change. Transposing a row or column causes your cell data to change orientation. Row data will become column data, and column data will become row data. You can use the paste special command to perform this type of irregular cell copying. In the Paste Special dialog box, select the Transpose checkbox to transpose a row or column. In the File tab, you'll find the Print Preview options to set up your workbook or worksheets for printing. Click the Print tab, then click the Page Setup to open your Page Setup dialog box. There are a bunch of options in here, but the most common one that I see people use the most in Excel is making sure that all of the data fits on one page. To do that, you have to change the orientation to landscape, the Fit To option, and select one page. Another print option would be to print a separate sheet displaying all the formulas that you used in a worksheet. To quickly display the formulas you use, simply click Control and the weird squiggly line accent button to the left of the one on your keyboard at the same time. So Control and the weird squiggly line to show your formulas. To focus in on only relevant data in a database, you will have to use a filter to only include row or column information that pertains to information you are looking for. In this example, we can focus on a list of customers from Toronto or Vancouver who acquired a loan between January 25th and March 21st, and filter out any information that doesn't match this criteria. To do this, I have to place a filter on the city column and the date column by clicking inside the first row of the structured range, clicking the Data tab, and then clicking the Filter button. The city column needs to focus only on Vancouver and Toronto, so to do this, we will click the Filter drop arrow and deselect entries from Montreal. To filter dates, we need to click the filter arrow in the Dates column and choose a Date filter. One that works in this example would be the Between option, as we have a start date and an end date. Our start date again is January 25 and March 21. Every date outside of this will get filtered out. You may have to sort a table or structured range based on one single criterion or multiple criteria. For example, I could sort this alphabetically by city name, and to do that with column D selected, I could go to the Data tab and click the A to Z button. If I had multiple criteria to sort, I would choose to click this button, the Multiple Sort button. This opens up a dialog box and we'll see our first criterion, and we will add another one. Let's make the next sort about the loan amount, and we'll choose A to Z again. But A to Z also means to sort from smallest to largest. If you want the largest amounts at the top, then you can choose Z to A, or largest to smallest. Just click OK and you can see our range now is sorted first by city, then by loan amount. Using subtotals allows you to summarize totals in a sorted range. Your information that you want to summarize has to be sorted into groups first. So for example, if we want to get subtotals of loan amounts in each city, we have to group or sort all of the city entries together. Once we have done that, we can go to the Data tab and click the Subtotal button. The At Each Change option is the groups you want to summarize. So in our example, this would be the cities, which we just sorted. We could even choose a function. Let's say we want the average amount borrowed. The Add Subtotal To box is what we want our function to apply to, and that is the loan amount column. Click OK, and we have our subtotal. So in this example, I'm going to use the autofill in two ways. I'm going to fill out a series by typing January into B2, and then using the autofill handle to drag down to create an autofill the next few months and fill without formatting to keep the colors the same. Now you can also use autofill to repeat a month, so if these were all entries in January, I would just type January twice in cells B2 and B3, highlight those cells, and then use the autofill handle to drag that down to repeat the January entries. And you can also select the fill without formatting if you want to autofill but keep the formatting the same. You can use the Convert Text to Columns wizard to separate simple cell content into different columns. Depending on how your data is organized, you can split the contents based on a delimiter, which means a divider or separator, such as a space or comma. If I copy this information from a Word document, then paste it in our Excel worksheet, you'll notice that our information is separated with a comma. So after we paste this information and open the Text to Columns wizard in the Data tab, we will choose comma as the delimiter, press OK, And now we converted our text into columns. My favorite function in Excel is the if function. It allows us to set up a conditional statement to test data. Like the time my friend's mom admitted that she didn't like mics. Yes, all mics, even me. Well, she said not specifically me, but in general mics are bad. So let's help her out in this example and look through these names in column A or our invite list to make sure no mics are invited. First we'll type in equal if and open bracket. Then I will click the Insert Function button to open our dialog box. By the way, you should use this dialog box for functions. It's a little bit more forgiving than trying to type the formula into the formula bar. But anyways, the first box is our logical test, and it'll look for if the first entry contains the word mic in it by typing the cell reference and typing equal open quotation mic close quotation. The condition or our true statement is not invited. So if there is a mic in this cell and it does truly contain the word mic in it, then they will not be invited. So this is, and then this is our true statement. So our false statement, if it says it's not mic, if this word is not mic, then the person is invited. So Bill is invited. Let's also see who else is invited by dragging our formula down. Yep, it worked and everybody is invited except me. Was that a little fast? If you want to know more about the if function, type a big if in the comments section. There are other types of conditional statements like the sum if, count if, and average if as well. Let's focus on sum if for now. The sum if function calculates the total of only those cells that meet a condition. The function consists of a range, the range of cells that you want to evaluate, criteria, the condition that defines which cells will be added, and the sum range, the cells to add if they meet the criteria mentioned. In this example, to calculate the sum of the sales revenue in Alberta, we will type equals sum if, open bracket, open our function dialog box, then highlight the province range for our range. The criteria is Alberta, so we're going to type that in with quotation marks around it, and the sum range is the sales revenue column. Now we have the sum of our Alberta criteria. Let's say we are a teacher trying to input the letter grade of our students based on their marks. Imagine having 300 students and having to do this. It would take forever to manually type this in, but only a few seconds with the Vlookup function and a table array. This is why I love using this function. It saves so much time. So first we'll type in equal Vlookup. Then for our purposes, I'll open our insert function dialog box so we can see the different parts that are needed to complete this function. First we have the lookup value, which is, in our case, is Watson's 63%. Could have tried harder, Watson. I'm joking, but this is our value that we want to compare in our table, or the value we already know about. The table array is this table. Notice again that only the lowest number in a range is needed. So you have to highlight this table or type in the range. And it's probably good practice to press the F4 key, which will grab hold of this table range so that we copy this function down, that range doesn't move down as well. And it will if you don't press F4 after highlighting it. Lastly, we have to type in the column number or the column with the information that we need. This table has only two columns starting from left to right. This is column 1 and this is column 2. We need the information from column 2, so we type in 2 into the column index number space. Now we have our value, and because we pressed F4 on our table array, we can then copy this down to retrieve the letter grade of our other students. GoalSeek automates the trial and error process by allowing you to specify a value for a calculated item, which Excel uses to determine the input value needed to reach that goal. Note that GoalSeek can only be used with calculated numbers, or essentially the numbers have to relate to each other. For example, if I wanted to set a goal of 10,000 subscribers by next month for my YouTube channel, I couldn't use GoalSeek to predict how I would do that because the number of months or views and subscribers are not related or borrowed from a calculation. However, if you published a book and you sold it for $30 and this month you made $300 from selling 10 books, but you wanted to see how many books you would have to sell to make your rent of $1,835.89, then you could use GoalSeek to predict that because there is a calculation involved. $30 multiplied by 10 sales, that equals $300 that we're currently making. But first you have to navigate to the Data tab, click on the What If Analysis button, and then click GoalSeek to open the GoalSeek dialog box. The set cell is the total and contains our calculation of $300. The value is the rent we want to make, or our goal, which is $1,835.89. The cell we want to change to reach that goal is the number of books sold. When we press OK, our GoalSeek will tell us how many books we have to sell to reach that goal. To make rent from your book sales, you would have to sell just over 61 books, or 62 books. So if you ever have to make predictions based on current trends in your numbers, one way to do that is to visually graph data points, then add trend lines to your charts so you can forecast certain series in your data. For example, let's try to forecast how many views my PowerPoint video over the next 2 months will have based on the trends in the last 3 months. To do this, I would click on the Chart Elements button and select Linear Trend Lines. Now I am prompted to pick up one of the videos in my data, and we'll choose the PowerPoint one and now on our graph so that we can predict how many views my video should get based on current trends over the next 2 months. This would work even better if you had a bigger sample size or yearly data to compare it to, but this is how you can forecast data using trend lines. A pivot table is an interactive table used to group and summarize either a range of data or an Excel table into a concise tabular format for reporting and analysis. I could spend all day looking at different ways to create your pivot table or add to it, but instead you can quickly put together a pivot table by selecting data, navigating to the Insert tab, and clicking the Recommended Pivot Tables button. From here, Excel gives you a number of different pivot table options that we can choose from. We just have to pick one. Sometimes when we have large amounts of data like this example here, we can make a human error and create duplicate values. If you're going to make a data table like this that has the types of days in them, then you might have some fields such as days that repeat, but for a whole row to repeat all of its values is highly unlikely and is likely to be an error. This is why when you navigate to the Data tab and click on the Remove Duplicates button, you are given the option to remove duplicates from one field or column, multiple columns, or all of them. When we check, a notification will pop up to tell you how many duplicates were found, if any. And you just have to click OK to remove them. Want more Excel tips and tricks? Check out this video for the most important Excel functions, and this video to see the most important skills according to Microsoft and Certiport, and I'll see you there.